We're going to tie an articulated mouse pattern like Gallup's Sex Dungeon, but we're going to turn it into a mouse. We have a piece of hide. I think this was from a goat, Arctic goat or something, Icelandic sheep. I used the hair, but the hide I trimmed a strip off, and that'll be the tail. We're going to use, for the wing, instead of marabou, we're going to use calf tail, and then we'll combine some lighter, darker colored deer or hair, moose hair, deer hair for the head. And then the rubber legs, will turn those into the mouse's legs. So it's going to follow the Sex Dungeon, but it's going to be a mouse. Oh, body will be spiral wrapped foam. Tie in a hackle, wrap the foam. Palmer the hackle over the foam. Knotted rubber legs on each side. Calf tail wing over the top. Tie in the articulation. This will be load bearing, so double it back and then super glue. Another piece of foam and another hackle. Wrap the foam, wrap the hackle. Calf tail wing. I'm going to change the order. I'll do wing, legs. Last time we did legs, wing. It didn't work so well. We'll do wing and then legs. Stack hair to start building the head. Start trimming the head. Glue on some eyes. From the top view, you can see what I was going for. But this reminds me of like a crankbait that's painted like a crawfish. It just doesn't. It might work, but somehow it just doesn't make sense. Let's try to get the side profile. Maybe you could make some changes using a dubbing brush with fox fur and then squirrel tail up top. That might fill it out. That might fill it out more, but articulated, it's going to be quite soggy, wet sock casting. So I think you could cast this thing on. We're going to tie something called the penny frog. At least that's what I'm calling it for now. Haven't come up with a better name. We have a light wire long shank hook, a 4mm piece of foam shaped to a penny. Got some rubber legs, and then a strip of 2mm foam, which we'll spiral wrap, and then some hackle we'll use on the butt of the fly. Start by tying in our hackle. We tied it down toward where the hook bends. We're just gonna wrap that hackle simply for the purpose of having some natural material on a very unnatural fly. I melted down the foam and made an indentation with the penny. We're going to glue the penny onto this piece, and then we'll make a slit on the back of it and glue it to the shank of the hook. Cover the hook shank with thread so the foam has something to bind to. You want to leave enough space toward the eye of the hook. You need some room to work. And then the tops and bottoms of the foam, that's where you're going to have the biggest score. And so you'll cut that in more and try to squeeze those ends together. Tie in your strip of 2mm foam. Apply the glue to the inside of the foam strip. The first wrap is going to be important. We want it horizontal. We don't want it at an angle. So we want to start wrapping uniform. We want a minimum amount of overlap on the wraps. After the second wrap, it's time for the legs. I pre-knotted the legs. Set the legs on the foam first, then wrap them in. Go ahead and trim off the extra leg material. Continue wrapping the body over the penny. As you get to the head of the fly, make sure you wrap slowly and deliberately, and that all the angles are being pushed down, so the foam is sitting flush. At this point, you can trim off the excess 2mm foam strip. You can see there's a little gap on the second to last wrap, and then there's some extra foam peeking out. Run a lighter to smooth out the edges, and then after the foam melts down, it'll fill out that gap. Running the lighter over the foam is very much like toasting a marshmallow. It's easy to overdo it. I like to, once the foam is hot, I like to roll over it with something textured. I use the cap of the super glue bottle. Don't use your finger, you will burn your finger. Prepare a small disc of foam. This will be your end cap. We'll apply glue and then press it in place. You can add some eyes just for aesthetics. If you wanted to secure the eyes, you'd have to clear coat or lacquer the entire body of the frog to make sure they don't fall off. Someone asked me why I don't use pre-cut forms for my foam patterns, and I like to manipulate the foam just like CDC, deer hair. Those materials are good because you can manipulate them. I don't want each fly to be exactly the same. Each one has different measurements. Each one will swim a little bit different. And when you find that perfect combo, then you can start really dialing it in. It functions like I thought it would. Is it going to land right side up every single time? I don't know. Maybe you would have to add a little bit more weight or play with the amount of foam. But I think it'll be fine. I don't fish a lot of heavy cover like lilies or milfoil, but I do occasionally fish a trash mat, debris area, and I think this will go through that very nicely. So that's my hope. But this is just a concept, and I haven't actually fished it yet because it's coming on winter time, so it'll have to be a summertime experiment. But the profile is pretty darn good. We're gonna tie an Alabama rig fly. I saw this one on Instagram. The person's concept was really cool. I'm gonna change it. Instead of spreading with a cone, I'm gonna do a mono spreader. I'll explain that. And then instead of tying on shanks without hooks, I'm gonna tie my additional side streamers with smaller hooks. So this is a 50-pound mono, and then I just went overhand knot, about 15 turns. The more turns you do, the longer, the wider the spreader will be. Moisten your knot and start cinching it down. That gave us about a quarter of an inch spread, so we'll tie that in. Turn the two smaller hooks into small flashy bait fish. This is just bucktail and silver ice stub. Very simple. For the main fly, we'll keep it simple as well, just bucktail and ice stub. We're tying it on the back half of the hook. Tying the spreader, I put a bump of thread down and then the rest with mono thread and add super glue. And there's a little schooling rig pattern. I don't know how well it would fish or where the hook sets would be, but I would use it for largemouth bass. They don't get too big, so I think it would hold up. But I don't know if they'd hit the side flies or if they can somehow get the middle flies. If you're swimming it, naturally the arms would go back. But I don't think they would tangle because I think they, on a pause, the arms would kind of pop back out. So potentially it could work, but this is simply a concept, not proven, and then inspired by what I saw on Instagram. Give it a try. We're gonna tie a floating synthetic hair bait fish. This one's a little gimmicky, so bear with me. Strip of 2mm foam. Spiral wrap the foam. foam body piece. We're gonna glue this on, and the head shape is gonna be important, so pay attention to that. The tail can taper. If you don't want your fly to float as much, you could exclude this step. Leave enough space for a tie-in point. You can give a paint job. The fly is translucent, so you will be able to see the foam from the inside, so maybe a little paint wouldn't hurt. Reverse tie in your bunch of synthetic hair. Flip your hair over, it's time to shape the head. The tops and bottom will work itself out, so make sure you have good coverage on each side. When the eyes are secure, go ahead and preen the hair back with your fingers. Create a sliding knot with monofilament. Cinch the knot back to the desired length, drop a super glue to secure. Straight cut across to create the tail. Angled cuts if you want to shape the tail. A little different. I think there are some sea bass in Tokyo Bay that would gobble this up, as well as some undiscerning largemouth. If you're a fan of tails, maybe this is a good fly for you. It takes a little bit of practice distributing the hair, but after you get that down, it's very simple fly. If you wanted more buoyancy, you could add more foam. I think you could also do some interesting like inside colors with the inside piece of foam. And then as well as the synthetic hair, the hair comes in all variety of colors, so you could really go crazy with that. But it was just a concept that I had. This one I haven't fished yet, it'll have to wait. But maybe you'd like to give it a try. We're gonna tie another synthetic hair pattern. We'll make this one a sinking pattern. Lead-free round wire toward the eye of the hook. If you wanted a heavier pattern, you could tie in a tungsten bead or cone. Ice stub. Monofilament loop with ice stub and fox. Wrap the dubbing and ice stub, pick it out. Reverse tie in your synthetic hair. I kept the butt ends, the short end rather, long to create bulk on the head. Brush out the synthetic hair, get rid of any strays. Monofilament slip knot. Pull the hair back, glue on the eye, then you can release the tension. Shape the tail. A little bit of marker work for added detail. And there's the sinking version of the hair minnow. Here's another one I tied in a little bit darker color. I think you could, not that this represents it, but you could really finally create a fly that represents a juvenile bass. I see the potential.